Hi, we're going to show you around Meteor, a new platform for writing web applications.
So first, some preliminaries. We download Meteor, create a new project. Now we'll create an HTML file. Hello world. Now with Meteor, the whole platform runs on your laptop, so you can develop offline. We just run Meteor. Now we go to localhost. Here we go. Hello world.
In Meteor, your app updates whenever you change a file. So I'll change Hello World to Hello Meteor, save, and the browser updates. I didn't reload. Meteor just pushed my changes down the wire to the browser.
Now I'm going to paste in a simple Meteor app. It's got 3 files. There's the JavaScript file on the left, total of 6 lines of JavaScript. There's the HTML file on the right, and there's also a CSS file that's not on the screen. This particular app uses Mongo for the database and handlebars for the templating, but Meteor lets you use whatever you want. So here the app is in the browser. This app is just a list of my favorite colors. It says no colors yet, so let's add some. I go into the console, and since we're using Mongo, I'm just going to type some Mongo commands. Insert red. And as I type the command, the screen updates. Let's see that again. Insert blue, insert green.
2 things to note here. First, the DOM is updating immediately, all by itself. I change the data, and the template updates. There's no callbacks, no bindings, and no controllers. It just works. Second, somehow, I'm using the Mongo API on the client. You've never seen this before. Up until this point in history, database APIs only worked on the server. But in Meteor, there isn't a server API and a client API. There's just the Meteor Platform API, and it works everywhere.
Let's be clear. All of this is being saved to the server. Take a look. I open another browser, and it's all here. You don't have to define a bunch of endpoints on the server and make the client call them. Meteor wires it all up for you.
And when we say that Meteor wires it all up for you, that goes in both directions. Not only are these changes being saved back to the server, the client is also listening for changes coming back down from the server. So when I make a change in one window, it automatically appears in all other windows without any other code. Think about it. Meteor literally lets you build in hours what used to take weeks.
Let's add another feature to our app. Say I want to be able to click on a color to select it. Here's the before again, and here's the after. Okay, now we can click on an item and its CSS class changes. And each person who's using the app gets their own separate selection. Pretty sweet for 8 lines of JavaScript.
Now, the whole point of most software is to let people collaborate and exchange information. So let's add a feature like that. How about a like button so people can say what colors they like? It's 5 lines of code. A button, an event handler, and 1 database command. Pretty slick, and of course it's fully synchronized.
Let's get back to the nuts and bolts. I want to show you how cool it is to have a full database API on the client. It makes it dramatically easier to make dynamic websites. Take queries. We're using Mongo in this example, so we can do arbitrary Mongo queries. Here's all the colors with more than 2 likes. What's awesome is this query was totally synchronous. You don't have to contort your code around callbacks anymore. And we can do arbitrary updates. Let's find all of the items with more than 2 likes and give them, let's say, 10 bonus likes. Bam, both windows update. How about let's remove all of the items with a like count of exactly 1. And there you go. So why is this useful? Well, check this out. This list is actually sorted by like count. When I change the like count, the items in the list automatically move around. And there's no sort code anywhere. This is entirely driven by the Mongo cursor that we're feeding into the template. Unless you get the wrong idea, when I move an item up, it's not redrawing the whole list. All the parts of Meteor work together. It's actually just updating the like count in place and then moving the DOM node around to its new position.
Now I showed you before how you can live edit your CSS and HTML, and Meteor will push them into your browser whenever you save. That's actually just the tip of the iceberg. Whenever you change your JavaScript, Meteor can actually inject those changes directly into a running app. Watch, I change it to sort by name. There it is. But look closely. I select this item, change the sort order back, and when the app is updated, the selection actually stays on the same item even though it moved around. Meteor is actually injecting the new JavaScript into the browser without interrupting my user. We call this a hot code push, and if you do continuous deployment, then it's absolutely vital that you have it. You have to be able to update your app while users are connected to it without disturbing them.
And for our last feature, I've got something that will really blow your mind. Meteor isn't just limited to injecting values from a database into a template. It can actually work with arbitrary JavaScript functions. That's right, you can give Meteor a function, and it will work backwards to figure out what data sources it needs to monitor to know when the output of that function might have changed. Let's check it out. We'll make a function that returns a string based on the number of likes and add it to the template. Meteor figures out that this part of the template depends on the like count, so when the like count of an item changes, it knows it needs to redraw it. All with no code from you. None. You don't need to annotate or modify your function in any way or call any special getter functions. It just works.
Okay, so I think this app is pretty great, and I'm ready to push it live and have millions of people start liking their favorite colors. I can do that in one command. This will push your app to some free servers we've set up so that people can try out Meteor. And here it is. Looks like the production database is empty, so let's add some colors to it.
Now maybe you're thinking, all of that looked pretty good when we were developing locally, but how well does it actually work over the public internet? The internet is a totally different place because there's latency. It could take 100 milliseconds every time you want to talk to the database. So you can't just go to the database every time you need a record. And you also can't wait until the database responds to update your screen, or your app will feel really sluggish. Turns out, Meteor has something called latency compensation, which fully handles all of this for you. Here's how it works. When you do a write, the client that did the write is able to update immediately without waiting for the server. Later, if the server and the client disagree about what happened, then the client's data is patched up to reflect whatever the server decided. Take a look. In the left window, you can see that there's a split second of lag after I take an action. That's the data going from San Francisco to Virginia and back again. But in the right window, because it's the window where I'm taking the actions, you can see latency compensation in action. The person who takes the action gets to see it complete instantly.
So you've seen all this great stuff, and if you're like me, your first question is, what's the catch? Am I going to be locked into Meteor for the rest of my life, and at the mercy of these Meteor guys whenever I want to deploy my app? The answer is absolutely not. Meteor is open source, and even more than that, it's an open platform. Let me show you. Instead of Meteor Deploy, I just type Meteor Bundle. And this gathers all code necessary to run all parts of my application and packs it up into a tarball. Let's take a look inside that tarball. Hey look, a README file. It tells me exactly how to start this app on any server that has Node.js. I've got all the code and can take my app anywhere.
Speaking of open platforms, what Meteor actually is, more than anything else we've shown you today, what it actually is an ecosystem of packages. I've used Handlebars and Mongo in this demo, but I can use whatever technologies I want. Let's say I want CoffeeScript. I just add it. Now, Meteor will be able to compile coffee files, or let's say I like the less CSS preprocessor. Now it'll preprocess less. These are Meteor Smart packages. We call them smart because they are actually little programs that the bundler runs. They can hook into any part of the stack, inject code into the client or server, preprocess source files, register new file extensions, pretty much anything. Meteor is just a tool that processes a bunch of smart packages together into an application. It turns out everything we've shown you in this demo comes out of some package or another. All the packages are optional, and what this means is that you can customize your stack. For example, let's say you really like Backbone. That's fine. You can skip all of the Meteor templating stuff and use Backbone instead, but still use Meteor's awesome data handling packages if you want to.
I know that's a lot to absorb, so we'll stop here. But we're just getting started. Our goal with Meteor is to reinvent application development.
There's a lot more information on our site, and we'll be releasing all kinds of interesting new stuff in the coming months. So get on our mailing list, follow Meteor.js on Twitter, and we'll see you in the future.